Good afternoon, everyone. I am Leesha Delatie-Budair, and I am the Acting Director General for the Statistical Institute of Jamaica. I'm very honored to be moderating this crucial session on innovative modalities for capacity building. As my colleague from Belize alluded to this morning, capacity building is an urgent and continuing need for NSOs, especially in small island developing states, as our institutional knowledge is often lost through attrition. Additionally, as our resources are even more constrained, we therefore have no choice but to embrace innovative modalities. So I'm very, very pleased to hear from our panelists today, and I'm sure everyone in the room is also very happy to hear about how we can adjust to all of the challenges that we're currently facing. As we know, national statistics systems are the backbone of evidence-based policy making, informing critical decisions in our economies, societies, and the environment. We provide the grounding truth for the rest of the wider data ecosystem, yet we are faced with significant resource constraints, and we also have to contend with the challenges of an ever-evolving landscape. There is an urgent need for us to adapt. There's an urgent need for us to build capacity, and we definitely have to start acquiring some new skills in order to keep pace with the ever-changing world that we're dealing with. So this session aims to delve into the innovative approaches that are aimed at equipping national statistics systems to be relevant, resilient, and agile. We have a distinguished panel of experts with us today who bring a wealth of experience and insights from diverse perspectives, and they're going to be sharing their experiences and how they've been innovating to respond to the challenges. With that being said, we will dive right into the session. So let me introduce my panelists quickly. I'm joined by Mr. Mohammad Hassan, and he is the Executive Director of Statistics and Data Science Sector at the UAE National Statistics Office. Mohammad is also the Data Chief Officer responsible for the overall implementation strategy of the overall implementation of data strategy in the UAE. He's on the advisory board of the United Nations Committee of Experts on Big Data and Data Science for Official Statistics and co-chair of the Experts Group on Well-Being Measurement. Prior to that, he worked at Microsoft International for over 5 years, focusing on public sector development and increasing the efficiency of government services via digitalization and cutting-edge technology. His banking and financial expertise spans 11 years. He holds a master's degree in strategy and national security from National Defense College and a master's degree in international business law from the University of Paris II, and a bachelor's degree in computer science from the National American University. So we have a very distinguished panelist here with us today, and he'll get our first question. Our first question is, in the last 10 to 20 years, we have witnessed great advances in technology. The UN regional big data hubs are at the forefront of leveraging innovations and new technology. In your view, what can the regional hub contribute to regional capacity development with regards to leveraging innovations and new technologies for official statistics and national statistics systems?
Thank you, Leesha. I think everyone knows today is we are in a fast-paced, advanced in terms of innovative technologies, and where data is becoming or growing exponentially. And the changes that we are seeing today, they are fast, and a lot of start calling them data disruption. So the data disruption actually not happening only within different institutions, but also in the statistics. At the same time, there is a narrative change between the traditional national statistics system and the national data systems, which are driven by those technology changes or advancement that we are seeing. The regional hub is not about collecting and processing data. And by the way, there are many actors today that we are starting seeing in governments. They are better in terms of collecting data. They are faster delivery. They are perhaps even better in terms of outcomes, at least perception-wise, not using the statistical methodologies, but they are innovatives, and they start calling them as a data scientist. But it's not replacement of statistics, but that actually disrupting the statistical system within the countries. The regional hub is about innovating. It's about staying relevant to the policymaker, and this is very important statement, staying relevant to policy makers, because that actually where I've heard in the previous sessions, budget issues. If you are relevant to decision makers or policy makers, then you will have budgets. If you are innovatives, then you're gonna stay ahead of the lines. And at the same time, you have to work in this new ecosystem of this technology advancement in data. And the UN Regional Hub for on Big Data and Data Science for Official Statistics provides an important part of that solution. It contributes to balancing between the national statistical system and the data and the national data systems. The hub complements the national statistics system with the data ecosystem that is being built and keep the statistics and data more relevant to decision makers. I think the hub, what it can do, it can leverage these innovations in terms of capacity buildings and focus on three main areas. One is the data integration and platform developments. And what I mean here is we need to really learn how to work with the private sectors. We need to learn how to work with their data, not only the public sector data anymore, because public sector don't own data as much as private sectors. The private sector is becoming more relevant than statistical offices in the countries. So we need to really develop lots of capacity in how to work with this data or big data from private sector. The second thing is we need to work on maximizing the data dividend. Which I mean by that is how can we work as a whole of governments? We still, as NSOs, and I know a lot of people might not agree with me on that, we still ask, give me the data, I will manage it myself. That doesn't work because we don't have, as an NSO, this infrastructure to manage the amount of the data, the big data that we can seize. And there are a lot of other solutions within the government themselves. They are better than the statistical offices in terms of capacity, in terms of resources, even in terms of infrastructure. So how can we really work as a whole of governments in that areas? The third one is, which I think it's very important, is problem solving. We produce statistical products, but we don't solve policymaker problems. And this is very important. That makes us more relevant. And the UN Regional Hub is actually trying to solve policy problems. COVID was a major, I think, lessons for us as NSOs. How can we really today leverage that in order to really move forwards in advancing the technology? But at the same time, there are challenges, which I will list them in a brief. One is when we work on solving problems, they are becoming episodic, which means that it's a single-use applications. But it's okay because we learn from it and we grow and we actually develop other things, which statistical don't prefer, because we prefer sustainability and inclusivity sometimes of when we work on any advanced technologies. Second is sometimes it's not applicable to many other countries. So the solution or the problem solving is not applicable to different countries. And this is why the differences come into place. But we know about it. But it works in different countries. The third one is the long-term data maintenance. And this is where I think the United Nations put in place the global platforms, which is an important platforms to connect with the public sector and the private sector. And the problem with the private sectors, NSOs can't work with big enterprises like, say, Google or Microsoft or whatsoever to obtain their data. Yes, they have initiatives called Data for Good, but who are the best fit today is the international organization like UN with the global platform that they have in a place to really collect the anonymous data, but at the same time, it will help NSOs in order to really work on these advancement of data analysis.
Thank you so much, Mohammad. Lots of food for thought, lots of takeaways. The one that stands out the most to me is that if you are relevant to policymakers, you'll have a budget. So the question for us is, how do we make ourselves relevant? While we think on that, I'll introduce our next speaker. He is Mr. Bert Kroese, and he is the Chief Statistician and Data Officer and Director of the Statistics Department of the IMF. Before joining the fund, he worked for 25 years at Statistics Netherlands. He served in various expert management and director roles in the fields of methodology and economic statistics. He served as Deputy Director General and CIO for IT and Innovation from 2013 to 2022, and as Acting Director General in 2014 and 2020. Nationally and internationally, Mr. Kroese has been active in the fields of innovation and environmental economic statistics. He chaired the UN Committee of Experts on Environmental Economic Accounting for 7 years and co-chaired the Executive Board of the High-Level Group for Modernization of Official Statistics of the UNOSSC. In the context of the European statistical system, he has been co-chair and deputy chair of several innovation-related task forces. He was also a member of the strategy team of the Dutch National Artificial Intelligence Coalition. Mr. Kroese holds a PhD with honors in mathematical statistics from the University of Groningen.
Yeah, that's good. That's good.
All right. So my question to you is, the IMF has a long experience with capacity building activities aimed at strengthening national capacities. How do you see the use of the latest technologies and digital transformation in capacity building activities to better meet policy and user demands, enhance capacity, and improve efficiency?
Thank you, Leesha. It's great to be here and talk about capacity development. This is so important. The IMF is all about global financial stability and sustainable economic growth, and data is taken very seriously inside the IMF, but also by the countries. Data on the economy, on the external sector, but also on government finance are essential for making good policy decisions, but also to have access to lenders, to external finance. And this is important for many, many countries in order to have the money for basic things such as education, health, and other things. So it is true that good data really is connected to lives, as we heard this morning. So we do a lot of capacity development in our macroeconomic and macro financial areas. Last year, we were giving technical assistance to 144 countries. We're giving a lot of courses, and people from 191 countries attended that. The important thing is that it's really connected to policy. I mean, both Mohammad and Leesha said you get funding if it's relevant, because statisticians of my department join missions, program missions, surveillance missions to countries. They're in direct contact to the authorities. I meet them twice a year at the annual spring meetings at the IMF, and we can really hear what are the real needs on this area we work in. But you can also support its use, so help the use of our data in the correct way. So really making the link between making data and using it. So on your question on innovation, I'm making 3 points. And obviously, I need much more time to explain everything, but I'll make it brief. The first thing is the content of our capacity development. As Mohammad is saying, and many others, we need to look into different sources. So what we're trying to do is also make use of alternative data sources. An example in point is a tool called PortWatch. This is a real-time tool that follows maritime trades. We use AIS data, shipping data on the global platform that the UN made. I see Ronald nodding. And basically, you can see every day what's happening with maritime trade. In connection with the Oxford University, we connected that to international trade in goods. And basically, you can see what happens when there's disturbance, like a drought in the Panama Canal or a ship in Baltimore Harbor. But it's also being used to supplement or even replace official statistics. For example, in Somalia, together with the World Bank and other partners, we use this tool, which is publicly available. You can just Google PortWatch IMF to really replace some of the international trade statistics. And well, in this way, a country like that can make an efficient and good way data that otherwise would be much more difficult. So new data sources are an important way to, in our CD, and will be more effective to get the right statistics. The second point I'd like to make is that technology can help us the way we cooperate. Next Tuesday, we'll have the System of National Accounts on the agenda. It's 1,246 pages. Even I haven't read every page. It's more than the 3 books of the Lord of the Rings together. But it's very important, and we need to use that new system to be relevant. But we want to help countries to really implement it. We also got a sister manual, on balance of payments manual, that the IMF makes. And what we did in the IMF is make something that's called the Compilers Hub. And basically that's a tool, a cooperation tool, all the manuals are there, but also a lot of training materials are there, all our courses are there. It's a cooperative space. And we also introduced a large language model. So this is using AI. And basically it's a talking tool. You can ask the tool questions and you just say, for example, what's the difference between a repo and a swap line? Or if a company produces a good under the IP of another country, how does that end up in export? And this is a very practical tool that does not only give an answer, but also lead you to the correct place in the manuals so you can check it. So the danger of hallucination is removed by really showing what places in the manual give the answers. And the idea that this will be very effective in helping countries to move to the new SNA and BPM. But also, I mean, a big problem in the countries we work with is staff turnover. I mean, making good statistics demands great skills. These skills are in high demand. People go to other places. And the high staff turnover means that we really have to ensure that the knowledge is sustainable, and obviously training materials, etc., will help. But also tools like the Compilers Hub and the large language model will make it much more easy for new people to get acknowledged to that, to change to the new manuals and to implement. So we really feel this is a more sustainable knowledge base to make statistics. We launched it at the end of April, and I really hope it will find its place. Obviously, we work together with the rest of the international organizations. And the third point I'd like to make is on cooperation, on training. In COVID times, we experienced that we can do a lot of things virtually. So paid by our donors, we're so happy for our donors making this all possible. I mean, this might be a difficult time for donors, but we're still very grateful for them. So we launched 11 courses, will be 12 next year, in 3 languages, French, Spanish, and English. And they're online available, but they're also used in our training programs. So if we go on a training, we go to a region or to a country, we ask the participants to look into these courses first. We call it blended learning, so there's a lot of knowledge building already, which makes the courses much more efficient. So we do virtual courses, which are very cost efficient, and also the blended learning, which makes the courses much more effective. So yeah, in general, I think data is incredibly important. We can play a role in making the data effective. You have to ensure that the data is really the thing the policy makers need, and we have to assist in helping them use it, focus on use, not only translating it. And I think the new technologies, AI, can help us to, make FCD more effective. And these are just 3 examples I wanted to share.
Thank you so much, Bert. Lots of interesting tools that IMF is making available. As someone who is not a national accountant, I'm very excited about your products that you're launching because it gives me the opportunity to learn about national accounts. And I'm sure that we'll all be accessing it. Our next panelist is Grace Wang. And she currently serves as Trust Fund Director for the UN Office for South-South Cooperation. She focuses on building strategic partnerships for achieving SDGs in developing countries through South-South and triangular cooperation. She oversees major funds, including the UN Fund for South-South Cooperation, the India-Brazil South Africa Facility, the India UN Development Partnership Fund, and the G77 Perez Guerrero Trust Fund. I hope I pronounced it okay. All right. Her leadership in strategic planning, resource mobilization, and joint programming with over 20 UN agencies for a large portfolio benefiting over 100 developing countries has propelled efforts and enabled South-South cooperation programs to integrate digital technology into traditional statistical systems, strengthening data governance and collaboration, and build statistical capacity and data capacities in developing countries. So my question to you today is, How is South-South and Triangular Cooperation leveraged to facilitate knowledge sharing and exchange of innovative practices?
Thank you very much, Leesha, and thank you for the invitation. It is very heartening today that I hear South-South cooperation have been mentioned several times by previous speakers and in the corridor discussion. I hope this is not only because of the financial constraints we all face today. So up front, I would like to say a little bit more about South-South cooperation, the cooperation among developing countries, and triangular cooperation with support of developed countries. The fundamental of South-South cooperation is based on solidarity among countries. Very importantly, it talks about the relevance of development context and the adaptability of solutions. And so that's why developing countries feel like the exchange of knowledge, expertise, and building capacity together is the bread and butter of South-South cooperation. Because of this as the foundation for South-South cooperation, in South-South initiatives, we emphasize methodologies such as demand-driven, such as co-creation of content, meaning knowledge has no hierarchy. You learn from each other. You learn from all countries in all different development situations. And it also emphasizes a lot pragmatism. I like very much the mentioning of problem solving. So if we talk about how do you measure whether you are successful in building capacities, one first criteria that would jump to my mind when managing South-South initiatives is, has the problem been resolved? If it has been resolved, compared to we encountered a problem not answered, then in the process, capacity has been increased. So with all this, I would like to say that today we see more and more South-South and triangular cooperation has been leveraged to support national statistics system capacity and the overall data ecosystem development. It happens at all levels. At the country-to-country level, I'm giving you a concrete example that I directly engage with the support of India UN Development Partnership Fund. In Moldova, Moldova National Statistic Office is adapting experiences and mutual learning with India, Estonia on the registry-based census, and also conducting generation and gender survey. That is country-to-country knowledge exchange. It also happened at regional and sub-regional level with the support of UN Fund for South-South Cooperation and the support of Republic of Korea. This is a triangular approach. Mekong River Commission and Mekong Institute is working with 4 countries in the lower Mekong region, Cambodia, Vietnam, Thailand, Laos, PDR, to leverage data-driven solutions for water, food, energy nexus. It also happens, very importantly, the previous session talked about subnational level. City-to-city South-South cooperation is also supported. This case comes from the support by government of China under the UN Fund for South-South Cooperation. Santiago, Chile, faced a challenge of lacking a unified data system to monitor and plan for urban transportation. So they adapted the public data, transportation data brain approach of Hangzhou city in China and to, improve their own system. So these are the few examples that, we learn that South-South is actively in action. Globally, as an office, UNOSSC for South-South Cooperation, we offer a global digital database called South-South Galaxy, where you can find 500 institutions globally, 50+ UN entities sharing their data on South-South cooperation. And we wanted the data to be accessible and actionable because that platform is empowered by AI to have broker supply and demand to foster South-South and triangular partnership. It also hosts a network called Data to Policy to help build capacities and mutual learning among policymakers on data-driven and evidence-based policymaking. It conducted learning sessions on topics such as gender data utilization, multi-dimensional poverty index, and so on and so forth. So this is just to show that South-South cooperation is actively in action, but looking forward, there are also recommendations, and I'm thinking we can talk about it in the next round, but beyond knowledge and sharing, there's more impactful approaches we can leverage South-South cooperation on the policy coordination level, economic integration level, and that relates very much to the capacities of data system, of national statistical system. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Lots of food for thought again, and I am very happy about your platform that connects those who are in need with those who are able to provide support. This is definitely something I'm sure most of us in the room will be exploring. So let's move on to the next round of questions. So Mohammad, my next question to you is, how can national statistics offices effectively integrate emerging technologies such as AI, big data, and cloud computing, and that include data strategy into their capacity development while ensuring data security and ethical considerations?
Thank you, Leesha. Maybe in the previous session, Johannes mentioned about the AI. So no matter how much we try to build the capacity in the National Statistics Office in AI, it's not enough because we have a different type of data that we need to work on. So I'll go back to the initiatives of the UN Regional Hub is to work as a whole of government platform approach. And what we did is we tried to develop this balance between the national statistical system and the national data system together. So we developed an index within the UAE. And I think Stefan mentioned that we measures other, but no one is actually measuring us. So we developed that index that measure the statistical office, plus it measures the other government entities within the countries. And what we did is the index is developed in three main pillars. The main pillar is, the first one is data governance. So we didn't call it a statistical governance, but what we did is we made sure that the statistical governance are being applied in every single government entities within the countries. Second, we did second pillar of the index, it's data quality. So we made sure that all the statistical data quality measures being applied or implemented by the governments. I'll go in a bit details. The third one is the data exchange model. And this is where the strength came in, because we don't have the technology to connect and the platform, but we use other government platform to host the data. So we don't need to keep everything with us as NSO. I think the world is changing. And I'll go back to the first pillar. So when we talk about data governance, we wanted this collaboration with the whole of government's platforms. And we said the first thing we need to put is statisticians in every single government to implement these standards of the index. So we need a high budget. The first thing said no budget, forget it. And you are asking to change the organization structure in every government, rejected. So both being rejected by the cabinet. Then we came up with a different idea. How about we have data champions? So we ask every single government, and we have more than 45 government entities in the countries, we ask them, how about you nominate data champions, but without changing your organization structures and no change, or we don't need budget. And most of them, they had data scientists being hired, and these become the data champions in the government entities. And today we build a network of more than 150 statisticians. We call them internally statisticians, but when we go to the meetings, we say that data champions. So we work with them closely in order to really implement the governance model in every single government entities, and it worked. It took us 2 years, but today we have more than 130 data champions in different government entities. They work with us, and we meet at least in an event like 4 times a year. The second things, we wanted to develop the metadata. So very important things for NSOs is to have the metadata of the entire countries. So what we ask them today is, here is the list of information that you need to give us in this type of format about all the data that you have in your databases. And guess what? We have a list of the entire countries data-less. So today, when the policymaker come to us and said, I need this specific, or I have this specific problems, I know where to find the data using my data champions. And guess what? It helps me in the third pillars. Immediately what I can do, I can actually connect directly and do this data exchange with them. The second part was I think the most important thing is how can we really make sure that the data quality based on a statistical NCAV and other method is being implemented by government entities. So we developed that models and we got a technology. So we bought a technology, a platform that we have in the National Statistics Office, and actually it does the entire data quality in a seamless way. So we have today is more than 100 million data is being pumped into the database that we have, and actually the data quality is being processed automatically with seamless integration with the governments. The third pillar talks about the data integrations. As I said, I don't have AI tools. I can't invest as NSO in AI tools. It's too expensive. The processing of the computing processing for AI or even large language modeling is huge, and we can't really do it neither in terms of budget, neither in terms of resources or infrastructure. So we have an AI ministry within the UAEs, and actually what we did as part of this data champions, I have a data champion, the AI, and I said, can I use your infrastructure to process all my large language modeling, and here is my data. So our data is open today, is making sure that when you ask about the ethical consideration and data securities, we provide them anonymous data. And actually, it works well. So today they have copy of our data, but anonymized. They don't have the personal information, but we use their AI models to really find, or actually to generate reports for us. So today's, we publish our data as SDMX, but actually we want something faster for, again, be relevant to policymaker. Policymaker will not go to my SDMX and try to find data. He just want to type like ChatGPTs, find me the data on this, or find me the analysis on specific things. In 1 minute, actually less than a minute, he can find the information today. But I don't host the technology, it's already hosted somewhere else. And that leads me back to the regional hub and the global platform of the United Nations. The importance of this global platforms, the UN will be able to really build that collaboration with the private sectors. We can't do it as NSO individually. Today, there is this community who can really benefit from this global platforms to really work on certain problems that can be used for official statistics on a later stage.
Thank you so much, Mohammad. And very good work that they're doing in UAE, right? This whole of government approach, it's good to see it move from talk to action. It's something that I'm certain we're all familiar with. All our governments talk about a whole of government approach, but you're actually doing this whole of government approach and you're leveraging it to make statistics more relevant. And of course, I'm certain you don't have a budget problem. All right. So Bert, back to you. You gave us some very good information about your tools, your experience, but what are some of the challenges that you're facing?
Yeah, thanks. I want to mention 3 challenges. One is the ever-evolving user needs. I mean, the society and the economy is getting more complicated. The global manufacturing arrangements, the financial streams, digital money, data needed on climate. And that means statistical offices, but also we as the IMF have to collect more data on different topics, the need for granular data. And you have to prioritize because also the main data sets have to be of good quality, but also data is needed about the new areas. And many of the areas we're not really experts in, so we really have to collaborate. If you want to make climate or environmental statistics, you need to cooperate with experts, with other ministries in that. The whole world of bitcoins, of digital money, statistical offices need to work together with central banks, with the financial authorities, and that's a new line. We need to step up and make data about these things as well. But even more than before, cooperation with other institutions, with the private sector is important. The private sector has loads of data. They're willing to work with international organizations at least. We got the Data Development Partnership, working together with big companies like LinkedIn. But we can bring the standards, the quality, the rigor, and that's important. So I think one of the things is, well, the broadening scope of what's expected from us, and the answer is really cooperation and not trying to just stick to the Statistical Institute work. I used to be at Statistics Netherlands. We work together with the central bank, but now I'm at the IMF. I see how close these communities should be in solving issues and working together. So that's one of the goals I try to make. The second thing is capacity in countries, and obviously a lot can be said about that. First and foremost, we need to, well, do the things that are useful. It has been said 10 times already only in this session, but it's so important. I mean, if you do the things that are useful, you increase the chances of getting funding. And that's why I'm sending my statisticians with policy teams to countries. So they're meeting with the especially central banks and ministries of finance. That's why I meet with the ministers of finance and central bank governors twice a year when they come to Washington, because they really find out what is needed. And the country teams of the IMF are there too. So it's really connected to external lending, to surveillance, and also helping these countries to use the data. So it's really not only doing the things we think is good, but really trying to make it demand-driven and help them using the countries in the right way. But the other thing is South-South cooperation, as was said. We cannot help every country in the world as much as we want. So we need to leverage the experience and the knowledge that is there. So we work together with the African Development Bank, with the Big Data Center in Rwanda, with many others, to figure out how we can share experiences. We have regional trainings to bring everyone together, learn from each other, build networks. Leveraging that is the only way we can really be successful. So after this meeting, we'll have a chat, I guess, because it's really one way to improve. And sharing knowledge. And Mohammad is right. I mean, making LLM tools, leveraging AI, big data. This is a huge thing to do for NSIs that are already very stretched. So what we can do as international organizations, provide tools. Portwatch is, for example, available for everyone in the world, can be used and will be used even more. The LLM tool will be available. We're working on some statistical chatbot that basically queries databases. So if you do it now, right? If you go to ChatGPT and ask the question, give me economic growth for the G7 countries and take the data from, let's say, the OECD database. Within a split second, you get a great table with the right G7 countries, and the data look right, but they're all wrong. They're all wrong. And it's so dangerous because people will do it that way and write these reports, filling these tables. So that's why we're working on a tool that actually doesn't give numbers, but generates a query on respect to truthful databases. That's been tested by 100 countries now, 100 people outside the IMF, and we just got funding from it, so we probably launch it to the end of the year. And it really will fight misinformation. And the reason I say it is that this is too big to be developed in one specific country. So what we'll do is to work together with OECD, World Bank, and others to develop this, share it, and in this way the advantages of AI, big data, can be for a large part being done by international organizations, sharing it. In addition to South-South cooperation, countries talking to each other, sharing experiences. And I guess that's one of the answers. And the third thing I'd like to mention, of course, is funding challenges for doing statistical capacity development. Everyone has an issue with that, we too. But I guess what we should do is make the point and try to raise as much money as possible. But in the end, there's also an obligation for us to really work together well and to supplement each other. So Johannes' call for increased cooperation, knowing what we're doing, complementing each other, changing experience, ensuring we complement is so important. So with World Bank, we already stepped up, really trying to join our programs, ensuring things are complementary. And I think we can even improve on that because, well, if there's less money, we need to be more effective and efficient because the goal is so important to have good data for policy making, and we are more than happy to keep contributing to that. Okay.
Thank you, Bert. Who would have thought ChatGPT would be that wrong? You can tell some of our policymakers that they believe in it, but I'm very happy to hear that the IMF is working on a tool that will point to the real truth, which is the data from NSOs. So Grace, my last question for you is what are some suggestions to enhance the impact of South-South and triangular cooperation on building statistical and data capacities of developing countries?
Yeah, thank you for this question. It's, in my mind when I even talk about the first topic, the first question, because let me unpack the three concepts we're talking about. Number one, South-South. We all know that South-South is very strong in knowledge sharing, but that is the bread and butter, but that is not all. Because South-South cooperation has a lot of impact in terms of policy coordination and supporting regional integration efforts. And those are the means that can deliver impact at scale. And then the second concept we discussed about capacity development. And I heard from this morning's discussion, we obviously know capacity is beyond skills. It is about systems. So if we think about that, then South-South does have an important role to contribute towards the system-level capacity that we all aim to achieve. And put in the context of the Pact for Future and the Global Digital Compact, emphasizing data is an essential asset and global public good for sustainable development, a sustainable future. So what are areas that we could think about that need to strengthen South-South and triangular cooperation, strengthen its contribution to the overall data ecosystem? I would like to put forward three suggestions, three areas. Number one is together shape a better global data governance. Developing countries can leverage South-South cooperation and policy coordination to harmonize data governance policies, ensure data interoperability, security, and accessibility. There, I think regional institutions, regional mechanisms can play an important role. We know that AU data policy framework provides guidance to align data regulations and foster a common Africa data market. We know ECLAC worked with interagency coordination mechanism to enhance the data on displacement and migration, leveraging countries in the region's knowledge and working together. So these are examples of shaping global and regional data governance issues. The second area, I think, is to expand the South-South cooperation support to regional integration and data collaboration for better economic cooperation, global value chains. There, of course, we know reliable data is critical for economic integration, trade facilitation, cross-border e-commerce, digital economy. But trusted cross-border data flow is an important key to unlock that potential. And we see multilateral arrangements such as Digital Cooperation Organization with, I think, 16 or more, more than a dozen countries, mostly from the South, developing countries, to work together to unlock this cross-border data flow issue, to boost investment in digital economy. Our office is working with them, and we can jointly leverage their expertise and our cooperation mechanisms to help developing countries develop digital transformation data cooperation projects. We also know ASEAN, with the help of EU and GIZ, so this is a triangular approach, to work with ASEAN countries to improve their data sharing scheme to boost economic development. So there, the ASEAN Help ASEAN approach is very fundamental South-South, with support from EU and GIZ as triangular partners. And there, I think this is very inspirational for all of us to think that we can leverage South-South better. And the third area I want to emphasize, we talk about technical skills, institutional. Have we thought about cooperation capacity? I think national statistic offices can also get support to enhance their cooperation capacity, better engage in global initiatives, international cooperation, including South-South and triangular cooperation. Two things that needs to be done. One is in the SDG indicator, the 17.3.1, there is a part of that that is measured by the voluntary framework of measuring South-South cooperation. Our office support UNCTAD in working on that together with southern countries so that South-South can be better measured, not only in financial terms, but also in monetary terms and in-kind contribution. So that we need national statistic offices to engage. More than 60 countries have requested support on that. Also, I think that can be included if we have better data on South-South cooperation. We can include that into the VNRs by countries, and that will inform the SDG policymaking and strategies. And there, we need NSOs and the overall data stakeholders in countries to work together. We have put forward a manual, handbook on how to integrate South-South into VNRs, and we would like to work together. At the end, I wanted to say that there's very few structured system support and financing mechanisms, I think, for NSOs to boost the capacity they actually need in today's very challenging data system. There are a few that NSOs can better leverage, including the South-South Cooperation Trust Funds that we manage. The UN General Assembly resolution consistently on South-South cooperation called for member states to contribute, big or small, to trust funds like that. As a trust fund director, how can I not talk about that? So I do hope that we can come together in terms of knowledge and finance and to work on data collaboration programs in developing countries. It is through collaboration, through system building, through actually resolve problems that our capacities will be enhanced together. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Grace. We're almost out of time, but I wouldn't want us to leave here today without giving you, our audience, an opportunity to make an intervention. So I'm going to take two very quick interventions, just two. Oh, there's no flags. So I'm going to take Andrea Denise De Silva first, and then our colleague from Somalia. Go ahead.
Thank you so much, Leesha. I'm Andrea. I work for the National Statistical Office in Brazil, IBG, and we are hosting the UN Regional Hub for Big Data and Data Science for Latin America and the Caribbean. So I would like to add a point of the picture of my colleague Mohammad, just bringing the perspective from Latin America and the Caribbean, to fulfill the mission, let's say, the mission of the UN Regional Hub. We have been doing a lot of capacity building as webinars, conference, and hands-on training for the countries in the region. But what we can see is that there is a lot to be done. We conduct every year consultation with the countries, and we ask them two questions. Many questions, but two relevant questions on capacity building. What do you need to implement projects or to produce statistics using big data and data science? And the second one is, what do you have to share with the region? That's South-South cooperation that Grace talked about. The first one is we get classical answers. I think that's familiar to everyone. We need qualified human resources. We need technological infrastructure, and we need data, access to data. So every year, years pass, and they answer the same. But the good news is that years pass, and they more and more say, I have something to share with the region. Give you just two examples. First year, 2 years ago, the National Statistical Office in Brazil gave a training to the region on the use of web scraping for prices and for price index. And it was great to see this South-South cooperation and how they shared the knowledge. 1 year ago, Dani Colombia shared with the region, giving a training on how to use satellite imagery to produce 1171 indicator. So it's to say that there is a lot to do, but there is a lot to be explored as South-South cooperation, and we can see that in Latin America and the Caribbean. Thank you, Leesha.
Thank you so much, Andrea. Go ahead. We're not hearing. Oh, you can go ahead.
Yeah, my name is Abdulsalam Mohammad. I am the Director General of Somali National Bureau of Statistics. I want to highlight the importance of innovative approaches to capacity building, especially for fragile states like Somalia with limited resources. To further enhance our capacity, we must leverage digital tools to foster strategic partnerships. We have engaged with IMF and plan to leverage non-traditional data for estimating trade statistics, and also planning to integrate private sector data, such as that from mobile network operators into official statistics, actually, because sometimes there are natural disasters happening in Somalia, and also we do need to engage with the private sector to get some insights about population movements within the country. So we are just planning also to having that close partnership with our private sector mobile network operators in Somalia. Furthermore, South-South cooperation and regional collaboration are also key to ensuring that fragile states can benefit from shared knowledge and cost-effective solutions. I urge the international community to prioritize tailored, flexible capacity building models that address the unique constituencies of countries affected by fragility and conflict, ensuring that no country is left behind in the push for better data and evidence-based policy making. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. As we close our session today, I'm going to give each panelist 1 minute, please, because we're already over time. So just quickly, closing, concluding remarks, anything else you want to add? I'll go with Mohammad, then Bert, then Grace.
Thank you. And I think I think Bert mentioned very important is the collaboration to come up with a unified, sustainable solution that provide the policymakers a solution, such as the LLM. For me also, I've just learned from him today about that. And the first things I'm going to do is actually collaborate with IMF to really try to be part of that important initiative. So I think collaborations, and it's very important to really build that capacity across the National Statistical Office. The second thing is very quickly is we can't work in isolation anymore. So whole of government approach, I think, needs to be implemented. We saw it successful. It took sometimes 2 to 3 years, but actually the result, we saw the fruit after 2 or 3 years of that. Thank you.
I could say ditto, but maybe I add something to that. Well, we heard of the UN Statistical Hub, in the Big Data Hub in Brazil, in UAE. There's this also in China, Rwanda. We established one in the IMF last year, and we need to work together there too. Let's see what you're doing, how can we leverage each other's results and make knowledge and tools for the whole community. And yeah, to our colleagues in Somalia, thanks for the great cooperation. It's really good to try to figure out how we can use these new tools, also satellite data, to get the information that is needed. So we're really fortunate to having you there and cooperate with us. Thank you.
3 sentences, the reflections I got today. Number 1, I think capacity is deeply rooted in system building, collaboration, and problem-solving practice. Number 2, my title is Trust Fund Director. The fund is in small letters, trust in big letters, capital letters. A little fund, but a lot of trust. So that is what we need as the multilateral system, as international community, when we work on real problems. So let's partner. Third sentence. Who mentioned friends this morning? I think your director. And I think that reminded me of a Chinese Confucius teaching. 学无有则孤陋而寡闻, meaning learning without friends will become limited and narrow. So I'm so happy to meet all these friends, and I hope we can, work together and bring the friendship longer through real cooperation and problem solving for a data-powered future. Thank you.
Thank you so much. As we are out of time, I will summarize and condense my concluding remarks into 3 phrases. Stay relevant, use the online tools and training resources available, and let's collaborate and work together. Let's continue the conversation. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for your time.